Hello, today we're going to be reading more video game design for dummies, as inspired by Kai Cenat. I want to be better at articulating myself the way that he is, trying to be as well, and I also want to just read. This is a habit that I haven't done for years. Today it's kind of past my bedtime right now, but I'm going to be dedicated to this, so here is 20 minutes of me reading before I go to bed. Let's get into it. Hey Siri, lock iPhone. The democratization of tools and knowledge enables everyone to shape the industry instead of a select few dictating what games are. Just like you can take many different paths to make a game, you can also define what a game is in many different ways. At the time I'm writing this, the industry is having a difficult time. Many companies are doing layoffs, larger projects are having trouble getting funded, but making games on your own and sending them off into the world has never been more accessible, especially with Hytale just coming out. I think it was early access today, or today, 15th. It's the 15th of January, 2026, I believe. 2016, a retrospective. Pokemon Go was released in 2016. So, 2016, Pokemon Go was released, which was a global hit. The game took advantage of what mobile phones had to offer, like most of the games hadn't. Portability to explore the world and their camera. Okay. Ingress, the game made by Niantic prior to Pokemon Go, has done this as well, but adding Pokemon was the lightning in the bottle for Niantic. For me, Pokemon Go inspired me to focus my graduate work on augmented reality (brackets AR) and map-based mobile gaming. I eventually got to work with some of the people who made that first version of Pokemon Go when I designed Peridot at Niantic. A fortunate time in my career. 2014, so we're going backwards in time by the looks of it. Facebook, now Meta, acquired Oculus, making VR a mainstream focus for tech and gaming. This acquisition has since changed the VR landscape. For example, I was in a Target the other day and walked past an aisle I was in a Target the other day and walked past an aisle end cap holding new Quests for sale. You would never have seen that in 2014. Alongside their hardware efforts, like Horizon Worlds and other accessible VR platforms, Alongside their hardware efforts, tools like Horizon Worlds and other accessible VR platforms are making it easier for smaller teams to experiment with VR and AR game design with a built-in audience. 2013, the launch of the PS4 and Xbox One, really? Wow, it was 13. Gave indie developers easier access to console publishing thanks to digital storefronts like PlayStation Store and Xbox Live Arcade. However, to this day, some friction exists in publishing on consoles due to factors such as platform-specific certification processes, higher development costs for console-ready builds, and strict licensing agreements. I have heard about that. Additionally, console publishers often require developers to secure development kits, which can be expensive or difficult for people to access. Just need to click my back. There we go. 2010s. Kickstarter, a crowdsourcing platform for new products, took off. This enabled board game designers and video game designers to post their game online and get some funding to work on their game. Big games like Cards Against Humanity came from Kickstarter, and it wasn't until 2012 that the Oculus launched its first Kickstarter for the Oculus Rift, sparking widespread interest in virtual reality (brackets VR gaming). 2009, people became more aware that a small team or even a solo developer could release something that could become huge when they saw Minecraft, the developer Notch, became a great example of a solo developer who achieved global success with a release on the internet. 2007, The launch of the iPhone and the App Store introduced a new era of mobile gaming. It wasn't until 2009 that some mobile games became phenomena like Angry Birds and Fruit Ninja. Mobile phones also introduced the free-to-play F2P model, allowing developers to monetize the games through in-app purchases and ads, which is now a big business. So 2007 is when that all came in. Damn. Also in 2007, Facebook opened its platform to developers, leading to the rise of social games like Farmville 2009 and Mafia Wars by Zynga. These games pioneered new ways of engaging players through social mechanics and microtransactions. 2003. Valve did something really big and launched Steam. It's in 2003, okay. This made it easier for indies to release their games alongside all the larger studios out there. Back in those days, there were way fewer games being published on Steam. A year after release in 2004, only 65 games were published, but obviously that took off between then and now. The 1990s. Last but certainly not least, the internet became accessible to lots of households in the United States. Dial-up became the standard for home internet connections, using telephone lines to connect to the internet. This enabled games to be created and shared with people outside of your household without a publisher. Dial-up began to decline in the 2000s with broadband network, but I'll never forget the times my friends were over at a house playing some games we found on the internet, hogging the phone lines from my parents. That's funny. Trekking back to today, top genres of games include open-world role-playing games like The Witcher and cozy games like Stardew Valley. There's been a rise in more niche games in the last few years, such as narrative-driven indie games like Disco Elysium and experimental puzzle games like Gorogoa. In the future, and with technology like AI, and social platforms progressing, we can look forward to more dynamic gameplay, more cross-platform experiences, and better tools to empower game creators and players/streamers. Tip marks tips and shortcuts that you can use to make your design process easier. Okay, let's see. Tip: you can learn a lot from the history of games and game development. I like to work on the beginning bits of a game and get it off the ground. You can learn a lot from the history of games and game development. I like to work on the beginning bits of a game and get it off the ground. So understanding how other teams started and what games looked like in the early part of their life has helped me set expectations for development and scope. Games like World of Warcraft or WoW may be huge now, but when they first launched, they all had design problems. Parentheses. Like loot that spawns on a world basis instead of a player to player basis. The trick is that these problems aren't game blocking enough to keep players from progressing and enjoying the core of the gameplay. Leaning into the fun. Plenty of frameworks are available for deciding what goes into a piece of software or a game, but I'm about to say the quiet part out loud. Frameworks aren't always the best way to create a truly fun game. I think the reason that many hit indie games these days were made by smaller or solo teams is that smaller teams have less red tape, which fosters creativity. A lot of the biggest hits were initially made by small teams. Take Grand Theft Auto, for example. The initial team that worked on the first playable version was made up of 11-ish people. Instead of designing with strict rules or setting up the red tape for yourself, making fun and the priority should be your guiding principle when deciding the features to include. For every feature or concept you're considering, ask yourself, does it fit the game? So does it align with the theme or core principles you've established? If not, shelve that feature or concept for later. We call that throwing it in the backlog in the industry. Is the team or are you excited about it? If the energy and excitement are there, then it's likely worth exploring. Developers who are excited about something will put their heart into the design and implementation. I fully believe that. I've written multiple 1,000-page documents on shit that I was just excited about, especially for D&D. I almost added, do we have the skills to make it? But here's the thing. Many great games were made by people who didn't have the skills when they started. They learned as they went, driven by their excitement. Sometimes the best features come from diving into the unknown because you're genuinely thrilled about making them happen. Awesome. Another tip. For every milestone I hit in my designs, I like to take a step back and assess where I can trim extra features to focus on the game's design and what was the most fun part of the game, and what the most fun part of the game is and why. Preparing to think systematically. A game designer is holding a lot of interconnected information in their mind. They need to understand how the game systems, so the rules, data, and calculations that make the game tick, work on their own, and how they interact with each other. If you want to know more about game systems, check out Chapter 7. Chapter 7 in this book is Understanding Game Systems. It looks like it's broken down to 5 main things, which is core elements in game systems, progression systems, social systems, economy systems, and balancing an iteration of game systems. Cool. Every mechanic, feature, and interaction is part of a web of cause and effect, connected by feedback loops that shape the player's experience. Here's what a game designer should think about when making a game. Brackets, learn more about the game, what a game designer does in Chapter 4. We've already gone over what Chapter 4 was in the last video. The core loop and how all of the systems on top of it feed into it to make it rewarding to repeat over and over. How systems can be broken down into smaller, more manageable systems. How variables impact the systems so that systems are fair, challenging, and enjoyable. Designing systems for emergent gameplay and unexpected behaviors. Creating feedback for players' actions using visual, auditory, or gameplay cues to let players know how their actions impact the gameplay. Systems that you may end up having to design may include balancing resources so that players don't have a million old boots and not enough wood for what they need to build. A procedural system to spawn a new creature with a unique body, tail, and colour every time. A progression system to level up a character as they complete quests. Diving into the game designer's mind. As a game designer, I am often thinking about how to make patterns apparent in gameplay, to teach players what to look out for in my games. I am also thinking about how to lean into the theme and feeling of the game, and how to make sure I think of features I have and the skill set to create. These are the top things that shape the way I design. To get a sense of this in a practical way, I am branching narrative. In a branching narrative I published called Chief Emoji Officer, see figure 1.1, which is just below by the looks of it. My team and I wrote a big story in which players can make choices and explore outcomes. My team and I wrote a big story in which players can make choices and explore outcomes. In the game, players communicate using emojis to navigate office policies. In the game, players communicate using only emojis to navigate office politics, climb the corporate ladder, and make decisions that shape their career. But this wasn't enough for us, and this needed to think about how to create a core loop and really drive home the satirical mood of the experience. And then it's given me a printout for what I assume the game looks like. Joey Brightside, an associate. I'm so attached to this company already. Everyone's so nice, but I'm pretty nervous. Nice to meet you, and have a good night. Joey Brightside, associate. I'm so glad you chose my idea. Imagine if it's the first company. If we're the first company to bring digital avatars to real life. Here, I'm going to show you how to use my favorite emoji, sunshine. Try sending some rays, and it's okay. Interesting. A screenshot of Chief Emoji Officer, the desktop version, on Steam. Okay, I'm going to go to the loo. We're going to pause the timer. I'll be right back. Hello everyone, I'm back. I'm actually going to call it there. We've read for about 15 minutes. We started at 12 past 10. It is now 10:32. And I need to be getting to bed. because I'm still a bit unwell. But seriously, again, thank you so much to Kaizenat for inspiring me to this. I know I've kind of taken the same namesake for this channel as what he has, because I really mean it in the most flattering way possible. It has driven me towards a habit that I've wanted to have for a long time. I've wanted to be someone who reads again, but I felt a bit humiliated that I was a 20-plus-year-old guy and I didn't read and I had no interest in books, and the massive difference that it is made to not just read what the words say in here, but to say them is the difference between night and day. It's the difference between me feeling sick and feeling like myself. That's most certainly the case. Even though I still feel like my eyes are kind of betraying me a little bit, it's nice to be back on something that isn't a screen. So with that being said, thank you so much for your time. Stay well and stay safe, and good night.